Hey guys, thank you for joining us again for another exciting episode of Yomo. This is the Year of Magical Learning podcast. So today we're back with another exciting Yomo, and today's Yomo reflection number is 315. And we're talking about the finite and infinite games by
Right, finite.
James.
Yeah.
The finite games and infinite games, right?
Yep. Do you remember the book The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek, like a
Mm-hmm.
long time ago?
Oh, yeah.
So this is a similar topic approached in a different way.
This one
So,
has both the finite and infinite games.
right, this one's just talking
Versus,
about games, right? In general, and just observing games and why we do what we do and the path that they illuminate along the way. And the infinite games found in culture and religion and how these dictate our lives and what we do and don't do. It was an interesting book. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good thinker. I think I'm coming to realize these days the books that I love the most are the ones that introduce something that makes me think, a concept that I either hadn't heard about or something that I had maybe heard about, but goes deeper or takes it in a different path and gets the wheels turning, right? A little bit like I mean, that's because the whole goal of this is the year of magical learning, right? Like, and you want to learn something. So I thought this was a really interesting book. I thought this was a good take on this whole conversation, and I'm glad I did it. So after finishing it, made me think of the game of values. Here's the thing about values that I think that I've discovered along this journey, and I think you feel probably the exact same, but we'll find that out in a second here. But like the thing that's so cool about values is they're kind of nothing and everything at the same time, right? Like they exist and they don't exist. They can bring you a ton of joy, but they can also can be irrelevant. You know what I mean? The cool thing about values that this world is broken into finite games and infinite games a lot, right? We have finite games like tennis, and pickleball and chess and kind environments that we talk about all the time and and things like that. And then we have infinite games. It's like marriage, children, and your religion, whatever, right? Spirituality. I mean, these are all games that don't be afraid of work that does not end. Those are infinite games, right? We love infinite games, right? Because infinite games are more purpose driven, right? It's more mission. It's more like that's the whole point of purpose, right? Is it's not supposed to be something you can win, right? You can't win in a finite game. And like my purpose of living for two, and all that I do with Amelia, like there is no end to the game, right? Like, I mean, it's going to be every day, all day for the rest of my life, as long as I get the opportunity to wake up the next day, right? So there's this pretty hard dividing line between finite games and infinite games in this world, in my opinion. But I feel like the game of values actually bridges both of those worlds because it's simultaneously a finite game and also an infinite game at the same time. And here's why. So it's a finite game because there's a lot of things that you do every single day, and we've talked about this for forever, right? Like there's a lot of things you just naturally do that just brings out the love in you, right? The conversation we've had many times before, meaningful work, meaningful relationships, whatever you want to call it, right? For whatever reason, there's just certain things that we do that just bring out the best of you. And a lot of times your values are found, a lot of your values can be found in those activities, right? As a matter of fact, the ones that suck you into a whole nother universe, and you get into that flow state, you just feel like time passes by like a breeze. Like those are the ones that's checking all the boxes of all your values and you don't even realize it, right? That's like things like tennis for me and pickleball and writing and other things that I do, right? Those are things I just get sucked into a universe and don't even know what's going on until I come out and I'm like, oh my God, like time just disappeared. Well, here's the thing is before this whole journey, I didn't understand a lot of why that was happening, right? As we've talked and gone through and dissected a lot of these things, and I've done a lot of reflection and, Amelia, God and I, whatever, like in our morning writings, we started to figure out like, the source code behind why these activities, did create that experience for me. And then, broke it down to the source code, which are values, right? So here's the thing though, so that's like a finite game, right? Because for the longest time in my life, I was terrified. You could take away tennis, what's going to happen if I broke my arm or had my arm amputated or became a paraplegic? I was like, and you took away my ability to go run or to do these things or to go play the games that I like to go play, right? Like it really kind of terrified me. It's like, what happens when finite games gets taken away from you? Well, this is where the game of values is my favorite game that I've ever played in my entire life comes into play now, right? So now that you've dissected down these finite games you play into what you love to do and what you don't love to do, then you get these source code little values remaining, right? And then from there, you can then start to take them and figure out, hey, this is when I'm doing anything, even shit that I don't like to do, how can I go play this game, right? Where I can go find stuff that I love to do and shit that I don't like to do. You don't want to be in that situation. Ideally, you want those completely out of your life. But like, if you just happen to find yourself in this situation, go play a game. Go figure out a way to bring out what you like to do and don't do the stuff that you don't like to do in environment. Or you can figure out what other activities can I do that can bring all these things out. So now the fear of having your finite game of joy and flow states and all these things get taken away without being able to replace it at all. Now it becomes just a fun game that never ends, because every single activity that you do all day, every day, you can go find ways to bring your values out, or you can strategically choose the activities you do in the first place that have the most likely ability to bring out those same values. So now can't take it from me. Like, this is the whole point, right? You can take away my tennis, but like I can go figure out another way and go take those same values and go apply it to another activity and feel the same joy and happiness and fulfillment that I want to feel, that I get out of the tennis game that I don't out of this. So this is, to me, the game of values, right? It's a never-ending finite game where each activity that you do, you can fill it up with values, right? But then you can take that away and you can still keep playing the game because those values are not tangible. Like, you can take them with you, they're portable, like they can go apply anywhere, right? So it's a game you can play for the rest of your life, and it's amazing, and I highly encourage it. So yeah, love to get your thoughts.
I think that the word games kind of like confused me a little bit. I think because a lot of times, to me, games is a human construct. And so when we say infinite games, I'm not even sure what that means.
Well, it's games without game is okay. I get what you're saying. Game isn't necessarily the right word, but I don't know a word to say. Marriage is a game, right? There's a back and forth. There's a whole lot of dynamics that are going on. I'm not saying that like there's a winner and a loser.
Because like I said, game by definition is a human construct.
Well,
so that's why I don't know.
That's why it's called finite games and infinite games, right? Like, it's not.
So I think my first thought is that it's not 100% a game that we're playing, and like we said,
it's a dance. It's like a dance.
Maybe. And we are on this life journey, right? Whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not, you're on this journey. That means that once you're on this spinning earth, you're not saying, I'm sitting on the sideline. So you're a participant in something. And I guess you could relate it to again, but I want to make the distinction that it's not 100% a game, because we construct the definition of what a game means to,
marriage. Like, nobody said you had to get married to somebody. Like, that's a game, right? Like, there's no, these are legal, law. What is law? Like, what is legal? What is a legal marriage versus just somebody coupling it? Like, are two bunnies that are committed to each other and have children together.
But is it a game? Is it a game though? Because marriage is a human construct. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's not 100% a human construct. It's not a 100% human construct, because marriage is what you defined the connection between two persons.
Correct.
The thing is, when you and your wife, right, you get together and you live together and you create a family, right? That is a humanity construct, meaning God constructed, or whoever you want to call this God,
sure,
right? You didn't construct the actual word marriage and what you do with it and how you go to the court and you take oath and you sign a piece of paper. That is a human construct. Right? And human construct is like, we just basically put a random shit together. Marriage is like, hey, I decided to do this, blah, right? To me, there's no rhymes or reason. There's no rhymes or reason why people say, hey, I have thought for the entire universe in the past, the present, and the future, and I have come up with this marriage concept. No one does that. Say, oh, I come along, I saw a marriage. Oh, what do you do marriage, right? To me, that's a human construct. And a lot of times you just throw a bunch of these games into the mix of, okay, the reality of life. You have to be a beaver. You must do the beavering. To me, there's two distinctions that I see. Like I said, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how to describe it. And
well, but I think you're saying something important, because these are still games that are human constructed games. They're just not games with a winner and a loser. Like, I mean, like,
right. So beyond this, the game by itself, I want to make sure that I can understand the foundations of where we stand, right?
Right.
There are games that we made up, right? And there's a game that it is by our human nature, we are bound by that, like gravity, right? We cannot defy it. There are the beaver must dam. You cannot defy it. Right? You can defy it at your own peril. You will die. Like, let's say, for example, there's a game of flight, right? I say, I don't want to breathe, right? I don't want air, right? What happens in that scenario?
That's not this, right? Because those are more like universal principles and foundational elements that we all have to abide by.
But the thing is, it's connected to who you are and what you can be, right? Let's say you play tennis, right? There is a certain, I guess, affinity for tennis. Like, you have to have the physical faculty to play tennis, and to enjoy tennis. There are those things, and so when you become a beaver, right? Or when you take a marriage, for example. So you say, hey, let's define this marriage. Well, that marriage isn't based on nothing. It's based on a universal law of attraction, meaning you are attracted to this other opposite gender species of your own species, right? Because
sometimes, I mean,
if not, you probably go marry a goat.
Couple.
Would you go marry a goat?
I mean,
no, I'm talking. No, I'm not talking.
I guess
my point is,
option,
I'm not asking universally. I'm asking you specifically.
Me, no, but I mean,
exactly. Like, and why is that? Because you're not attracted to a goat. Okay, that's that's what I'm saying. The universal law of human nature in general that is defined by an externality. It's not us who defines it. So when we talk about games, the games we talk about are our construct. Our writer is coming up with this thing, and we defining, we're categorizing these things. So this is what we call the game.
Like business or religion or nation states.
It's all made up. We made them up.
But these are the games that dictate our life, and there is no winner and loser.
It tries to dictate our life because we are based that on an existing law of human nature. Like I said, marriage is a law of human nature. Wealth and status is a law of human nature.
Spirituality.
Why do you want wealth and status?
Right. Well,
it's a law of survival.
I mean,
right?
Your kids
you have inclinations,
whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the reason why you. But the thing is, all these games that we create, or we take something we need, and we created a concept, a construct out of it. And so when we talk about infinite games, right, and finite games, in my mind, this is what I'm saying is I'm still not 100%, but I think that what we construct as a human construct, it's all finite games because we can't.
No.
Okay, give me an example of a human construct games that is infinite.
Spirituality. There will always be, whether Catholicism or Islam or whatever exists or not, like those individual games are finite, but the game of spirituality, as long as humans exist, will be.
The word game is thrown all over the place, and it's not really, it's so generalized that you can throw everything into it. You can throw, hey,
that's kind of the point. That is exactly the point. Is everything kind of falls into a game, right? Like whether it's a finite game, meaning like there is a defined winner.
Yeah, I think that's rules. I think kind of a way of describing it, because to me it doesn't give me any kind of lessons for life by throwing everything into it. Say, hey, if it doesn't fit, throw it into it as a game. So that's what I'm saying is I'm kind of wary of the word games and what we describe here, because what can I take away from this? The finite games and infinite games, right? The values versus non-values. I'm still not able to comprehend and understand what I need to do to navigate this life journey of mine.
So this is my biggest summary of this, right? And I tell this to my team all the time. You remember back with the book about everyone culture, with the DDOs and the DDIs and all that good stuff. One of the reflections was about focusing on your backhand, right? Well,
yes.
I've had a complete 180 around this idea for finite games, right? Like infinite games, you cannot progress in an infinite game unless you do focus on your backhand, right? Because somebody in that game will go, oh, there's your weakness. I'm going to target, laser lock in on it. You cannot progress to the next level. Like in tennis, if you do every shot perfect and one of the shots is just horrible, somebody will go, you will get to a certain level where you cannot go past because somebody will find a way to just completely pick you apart on that until you correct the issue and get it good enough to get back to your strengths. It doesn't need to be a weapon, but it needs to be something that doesn't prevent you from doing what you do well. So like in a finite game, focusing on your backhand is pivotal because you cannot continue to progress in that game until you address your biggest weaknesses that are preventing you from getting to your strengths, right? Now, this is where my big pivot of my philosophy came with this one of going over to a finite game. You could take the same philosophy, but I think that would be wrong because there is no winner and loser in a finite game. It should be only focused on your forehand in a finite game. Like do everything that you love to do and don't do anything you don't love to do. You can find other people to help fill in those other pieces, right? You can't do that in a finite game. If you're on a volleyball team and you're the one person that can't do a certain skill, your whole team gets crushed, right? Everybody will crumble until you can progress past a certain point in time. If you're in a finite game of business or something like that, and you can't do something and you try to go do it to focus on your backhand, like you don't need to. And you're only going to be average at that. Just don't do it. Like literally don't do it until you find somebody else who can do it to the level of where they love to do it and their values align to that. So this is where I would call the driving line or the dividing line between these two games is why the game of values is so important. Because if the game of values applies to both, in a finite game, some things you're going to have to find maybe your values don't align to everything, but you got to overcome that to get back to the things that you do really love, right? In the game, in an infinite game, like it is just play your values all day long. That is it. Like that is it. Only focus on your values all day, every day, and you will win every infinite game that it exists in this construct of humanity at this point in time, because like that's how it works, right? Like you don't need to focus on your weaknesses, right?
I'm completely like confused by the terms used because to me, infinite games and finite games are completely different because even in a definition itself, in infinite games, there's no winner.
Correct.
Right? So you're not like, oh, I'm playing this game. And it's not like you can decide to play games or not to play games. There's certain games that you can decide to play. Hey, I don't want to get married. Or, hey, I don't want to play tennis. Hey, I don't want to play bowling or whatever it is. I don't want to play chess. I don't want to play whatever. You can decide that. But there's a certain game that you cannot not play. You say, hey, I don't want to play the game of gravity.
That's not a game.
Well, what isn't a game?
Those are universal principles, right? Like, I mean,
gravity but the thing is, you're throwing everything into the kitchen sink into the game concept.
We didn't create gravity. It's anything that humans created, right? Is a game. Like everything that humans have ever created.
To me, anything that human created is never. The thing is, you say, hey, because the thing is, we are nothing more than we categorizing, classifying things. A game is something you create and you decide to enter into, like a game of tennis. You enter into it and you become a winner. A game of wealth and status, you create it and you enter into it. A game of chess, you create it and you enter into it. But you say, hey, an infinite game is, you don't create infinite game. And say, well, I'll give you an example, infinite game, and you take my spirituality. Spirituality is something that you yearn for, but it's not like you created it and you want to go into it and play it.
An infinite human game. Because like I think I understand what you're saying of it's not no game that humans play is ever infinite because we're not infinite, right? Like I mean, there's no.
We cannot create an infinite game because we cannot create an infinite sense. So anything that's infinite is created externally to us as a collective human being, maybe, but not as a hey, I'm going to play this spiritual games or whatever. The thing is, you're not playing a game. If you say, hey, the infinite game is spirituality. Are you playing it, or you say, and then I say, well, gravity, and then you say, well, that's universal law. It's not a game. Well, how is spirituality a game then?
Well, I guess gravity. You could call it a game because I mean, we did go to the moon, and we have to.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're trying to, dabble and go into other places and figure out how we bend time and space.
You created a game out of the universal law. It's not. I mean, to me, it's not disconnected at all. So infinite game and infinite games is like I say, the terms, definitions of these words.
Would it be better if it was just human constructed game that either has a winner or doesn't?
I don't think we needed to even like get into this games business, because I think it's a bunch of mumbo jumbo.
Well, the game of values is a game, in my opinion. It's a game that I can play all day, every day. If I'm at a situation, if I'm
But
in a
I'm
situation,
saying it's a game of values, right? I'm asking you, hey, I'm being like ridiculously like stupid here, right? The game of don't try not to breathe, okay? I know it's ridiculous and I sound like a broken record, but try not to breathe. Oh, I'm playing this game. You're not playing a game. You can't play a game.
you can with these, because there's nobody that says you have to value.
Yes, you
something.
have to breathe.
Well, no, you have to breathe. I'm saying values, like you don't have to. Look, I value challenging myself. That doesn't mean that everything that I do has to be aligned to that. I can actively choose to not do that. While I may feel like suffer, or I may have emotional running uphill kind of feelings, but I can still keep going. I can still keep sledging on, right? Like, and gritting my way through it and all that other stuff, right? The point of what we talk about.
The thing is, yes, human has so many values. No, human has so many values. Okay, it's harder for you to say, hey, I pinpoint challenge as my fucking value. Without fucking value, I die, right? It's not like that. But you simplify it down enough to say, hey, this donkey, well, you put a donkey in the shed, he's at death's door. You put an eagle in a cage, he's gonna die. I mean, the thing is, that's his value. And the eagle, to me, is not a one value animal either. He has multiple values. But to simplify it, you can see from a human perspective, he needs that freedom. From the eagle, he needs to spread his wings. He needs to soar in the sky. He needs to gallop in the field. For us, we need to be out there expressing our genes, our genetic, whatever it is. And part of it is going to be challenge, right? But challenge is like 1% of multitudes of values. If all of the value were taken away from you, you will cease to exist. And I'm being like stupidly ridiculous by saying, hey, one of the core values that I can show you that you cannot exist without right now immediately is air, right? If you don't have that, you die. Or human connections. You can survive without human connections probably for a year, but after that you will fucking die. So to me, that is a core value that is so close to the top. When you talk about like challenge, right? Challenge is like maybe the 100th core value. It's not as important for the survival, but it does impact the total overall value score that you have based on the multitude of values that a human have. You can't say, I decide not to do this, not to do that, because you don't have that luxury. Because when it become a core system, core values, you cannot do that. Because let's say you as a man, I mean, you get no respect. You get nobody give a shit about you. You people don't do anything. There's certain things that you want as a person. Without that, right? You lose the will to live. Because you needed that. It's not like, oh, I decide not to play. Because when you decide not to play, you lose. Because you are already in a quote unquote infinite game. Because it's not like it's a game. Because the game signifies that you have a choice whether you can participate or not to participate. But in life, you are a participant. You cannot say, hey, I'm a spectator, I'm just gonna watch. That's not how the life will. When you're born into this earth, and the earth is spinning, it's not like, oh, I'm not gonna run. I'm not gonna be in this race. I mean, the point of survival, right? This is why wealth, status, and power and glory is important, because you don't want to die. Because when you die, you are out of the game. Quote, quote. Because the thing is, like I said, these words confuses me a lot. And so when I focus on these things, it doesn't give me the clarity I need.
Life is a game, though. I mean, life is a game. Like, it's a game.
Like I say, you can call it a game. You can call it a game because it's just a game is nothing more than a word. We put a definition to, and we say, hey, we're gonna label it.
So many definitions of a game.
Like I say, we just slap a bunch of labels on things. I mean, we just make up stuff as we go. You know, we're talking about infinite games and finite games, and we're talking about
game is
what was it? Radical candor. Fuck.
Right.
Right. I mean,
well, I mean, like, always be impeccable with your words.
And then
right?
we're talking about like addictions and good addictions and bad addictions and a bunch of stuff. We just put a label on it and we say, hey, you know, this is what I mean when
value is like, that is literally, I just put a label on a feeling that I get when I do an activity, and then I can go, oh, I can now, just like when we say a word, like I'm watching Luca literally every single day, you know, watch Sesame Street or whatever, or say a new word, and he's assigning meaning to each one of these words.
That's how we able to classify and communicate by saying, hey, let's agree that this word means that, right?
Right.
But nowadays, my problem nowadays is people put a bunch of words together and try to define something stupid, like the word radical candor, right? I mean, that's stupid. And then you say, hey, there's a game. So we define games, and game means this. And there's somebody is competing, and we're trying to keep score and see, you know, keep track of you know, whatever. These are games, and then I'll throw in the word infinite game, then throw in the word finite games, and throw in the word game theory, and throw in the word a bunch of mumbo jumbo. You just redefine a bunch of shit.
Sure.
They write a fucking book about some fucking games, and you say, hey, you blah, 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 blah. And then you confuse the fuck out of me, and it's like, okay, you understand now, right? The infinite games and the finite games, right? And I was like, I don't know.
But you can't understand the game of values, though, right? I mean, like you just said, I'm inventing words. You're inventing words to describe a feeling that you have. So then you could then take those feelings with those words to wherever you want to.
To me, this is what I mean, Chris. To me, human nature needs to define things.
Right.
You have to make sure it is universal. You can't say one thing to one person and then you say the same thing to another person and mean something different. We can't do that.
This is universal. Like, this is, you want to feel connected and meaningful with what you're doing, right?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Is when you tell me infinite games, I don't really know what I'm thinking.
So tart.
Too much.
Tart.
Yeah.
Too much.
But I'm saying is that there's a certain agreement that we come together and say, hey, you know, I agree. You know, what the fuck that means? Throw out words that people have used to and combine two different words together and create something fucking new so people can buy the book or whatever. To me, that isn't helping. But if you say, hey, we're talking about things that you can understand, hey, there is certain thing that you need. Like, okay, you as a human being need to breathe air, right? There's any human being does not breathe air. Oh, well, I agree. I can really define that, and I can clearly see how that needs.
Is meaning something that's
yes,
that is a fundamental of life?
Meanings. We need spirituality, right? We need connection, because the thing is, when I say that to you,
right,
it evokes a feeling in your heart, in your brain, and you see something, right? You say, well, a beaver must dam. Well, a beaver is compulsory go and build dams,
right,
regardless of whether it can benefit from it. And somebody can say, hey, I'm gonna just go destroy the dam, and he's gonna build it again. And the beaver doesn't ask, now, why the fuck do I keep doing this? And just say, hey, I am compulsory.
Yeah, but if a beaver had a writer, and that writer could tell the beaver, oh, you really like to dam, like, great. Or maybe you don't like to dam. Maybe there's a beaver out there
doesn't have a writer.
Well, I know. I'm saying if a beaver had a writer, maybe they would
go, doesn't have a writer. That's the point.
I know. I'm saying if the beaver had a writer, like, you know, maybe they could go, oh, hey, you really do love damming. Now, I thought about this, and I figured, here's why you actually love damming, right? Here's what makes it so meaningful for you. And then you could go, well, maybe I could get that same thing out of, you know, building creating a skyscraper or something like that, you know? Oh, that makes sense.
But
Like, okay,
but
yeah,
the
I'll go
beaver
do that.
never built a skyscraper. It would never
Well,
do it.
I know. I mean, obviously, I understand that. I'm saying that like this is the game of values. It's like is all we have the ability to identify why we love something, why we do it, why we beaver, right? And then we could go. I could take that anywhere. I could go to. I could continue to dam and just be happy as shit. Or I could maybe go try to find other things that I like to do. Or there might be stuff that I feel like I have to do for whatever reason because the society that we live in makes me feel compelled to do something. I could find ways to bring my beavering into that environment, as long as I can take it with me. I could be building a dam wherever I go, and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm always fucking happy, right? Like I'm always enjoying what I'm doing, right? That is kind of what I'm getting at is like we have the ability to manipulate whatever that we are doing to feel like it's being, building a dam if we're a beaver, right? Like, I mean, that is the point. That is the game, right? That is what I'm saying is like, however you want to define the stuff that we have to do is either finite or infinite or whatever. It doesn't matter. There are things that we have to do in this world of what this world has created. Like, right. Like I have to okay. I know that I don't have to pay my mortgage, right? But I have to pay my mortgage, right? I know I don't have to get married, but I have to get married. I know I don't have to work, but I kind of have to, it's.
And that's thing is that's what confuses me. When you say I don't have to work, but then I have to. I don't have to get married, but I have to. Right. I don't have to pay my mortgage, but I have to. I mean, to me, that is just contradicting itself.
It is. I'm not saying that we are a walking fucking contradiction. I mean, everything that we do there's so many things in this world.
That's what I'm saying is
like,
it
doesn't make any sense.
In order for me to take something out of it, it is not helping to add more contradiction and complexity to the mix by just making up word like infinite games and finite games.
Well, it's simple.
Games in general, it's like
focus on your values, right? Like, I mean, like that's really the message, right? Like that is seriously it. Like, I mean, it distill it all down.
To me, I don't think you need to focus on your values.
I think you do. I think you need to understand.
Just don't resist being who you are, because we keep resisting it and say, well, I want to eat the marshmallow because some fucking study says somebody's smarter because they resisted it. So to me, you're resisting being who you are. You're resisting being a beaver. But a beaver is not as majestic as an eagle or as strong as a lion or whatever. I want the best. I want to be a fucking prince. To me, when you allow yourself to be who you are, you automatically focus on your values. You will do the thing that you are most, has the most talent for. Because you're resisting it, you're doing something else you shouldn't do. You're a fucking duck and you want to become an eagle. That's the problem.
Hang on.
It's as simple as that.
I'm absorbing what you're saying.
Don't think.
I
feel. Get out of the way, you elephant, dude.
You need to like it needs to be processed. I got to process what you just said. All right, so you are claiming that you don't even need to know why you care or why you like something.
You don't.
But how do you know you like something if you don't even know that you like something?
Because it's the indicator that I'm talking about.
No, I know, but how do you have an indicator if you don't check in to figure out if you liked it or not? Because I mean, we could do
your indicator isn't come from the rider. The indicator comes from the elephant itself.
No, I understand. But this is the omni value dilemma, right? We're not a beaver. Like, we don't just have one purpose, right? We don't just do one thing. We could do anything.
You would know. You would know
almost anything.
You can do almost anything. But I say, hey, Chris, go clean the fucking toilets.
So are you saying that you should just do as much shit as you possibly can until you stumble upon something and then you're like, oh, I like that, I'm going to stick with that? What if somebody takes that away from you?
Take what away from you?
It's things that you like to do.
I mean, the only way to stop a person from not doing it is you have to take me out.
No, I get it, but I'm saying like what if you stumble upon cleaning the toilets is that somebody goes, oh, you love that? All right, well, I'm gonna take both your arms and your legs and you're not gonna be able to clean a toilet with your face.
You will find a way. This is where your elephant say, hey, rider, give me options. The rider isn't the guy who's giving directions. The rider is an assistant.
I mean, we don't just have one thing that we can do in life.
Yes, we have multitudes, I mean, hundreds, thousands of things we can do. And that's why we have so many options. And it's very hard to decide that, hey, this core value determines who I am. But in order to understand something, we need to simplify it.
I don't think it's more complex. I get what you're saying. I don't know that you could completely forsake society, because at the same time, we said one of our universal principles is we need each other. There is certain things that we have to do that we don't want to do for each other because we need each other is a universal principle, right?
Like, you do.
I can't say that I can only ever do what I want to do. I can make it more fun and more enjoyable if I understand what I like to do.
And here's a problem. You do need the connections of other humans. Okay? But I can throw you into, let's say I throw you into a group of humans that has absolutely no commonality with you. To me, do you think this is helping or it's hurting you? Because you say, hey, I need human connections. And if you decide that I throw you to this group of people who likes to beat up on each other, who likes to spit on each other, who likes to stomp on each other, who likes to stab each other in the back, who like to steal from each other, right? There is human connection in there. But you as a person who has integrity, honesty, and a loving ability to love and feel other people's pain, you are completely different from them. But you will have human connections. My question to you is it going to hurt you or is it going to help you? And the thing is, my point here is that the moment that you accept the reality, hey, this is what I need because I need to endure this shit, because I need the fucking human connections that I need, then you stop looking. And when you stop looking, the people who you belong with, you will never find them because you never look. And that is my problem. Because we have so many. I'm not saying so many in terms of, oh, you have 10, 20, 40, 50, 60 options. I'm talking about you have thousands of options, infinite options. And you decide to settle and say, hey, this is the best I can do. I have to endure this shit because I need this human connection. Then you stop looking. And that is the problem. Because the thing is, we have so many options. Why do you stop? Because the thing is, you say, well, if I were to get something, I have to give up something. To me, this is completely the finite games that you're talking about. In the infinite game, we're talking about abundance, and you and I talk about abundance so many times. But in society today, it's all about zero-sum games. We talk about that all the time as well, and we know, and we completely reject the concept of zero-sum games. Zero-sum games is a human construct. In life, I don't know if we can call it a game, but in life, there is so dynamic that there are infinite possibility of things you can do.
Yeah. I mean,
and you and I both know the moment that you give up is the moment that you smoke your last cigarettes. Right? Yeah, because the thing is, the moment you accept something, say, hey, if I were to get these human connections, I need to sacrifice my need for the other core values. Therefore, you will never, ever going to find the other core value, the tribe that you truly belong. Let's say you live with a bunch of wolves, right? And you say, well, I don't see any human beings out here. This is the only thing I've get, so you will never look. And so that's the problem, because like if you were to play a lottery, right? What's the chance of winning if you never play? It's absolute zero.
Okay, isn't an infinite game a non-game?
It's not a game. So this book confuses me because you just throw the words into something and then I'm trying to decipher what I'm supposed to do with it, and am I supposed to accept it? Good thing I can't accept things I don't understand. Maybe I'm too dumb to understand it. So be it. But
that's obviously not the case. I get your conflict with this. I think you've given me a lot on my brain right now that I don't know that I can always be impeccable with your words. I don't think that I can be impeccable with my words right now.
To be impeccable with your words, you just have to
I
try
want
your
to be.
best to understand it as much as you can and learn it, and then maybe later on we can maybe find words that.
Right.
So for me, if you ask me, hey, what do you think about infinite games, the only thing I can tell you, Chris, is I don't know. I don't know what to think. I mean, and then the only thing I'm doing right now, I'm just spilling shit that comes out of my brain and say, hey, I just don't know. I just think that, infinite games is not something I can picture in my mind.
I think you've been impeccable with your words.
Well, I say the word that I understand, right? And I can't say, yeah, it's rad to have infinite games. It's rad to have value as a game, because to me right now it doesn't evoke anything in my brains or in my heart.
That's fair. I mean, remember the Love and Workbook, judge the reactions, right? Like if it's pretty rare on all these conversations where you and I don't necessarily fully align and connect on.
And it's not that I don't agree; it's that I just don't understand.
Yeah, which is fine. Which is that it doesn't matter. Like that's the whole point, right? Is if the reaction, it's not about. I could try to explain this to you over and over again in different ways, like of what I'm thinking in my head, but clearly I'm not being impeccable with my words. I think you've done a good job of making me think about how can I refine that. And I don't know how to refine that right now, which is why I'm saying I don't know what else to say at this point in time on this particular topic, because I need to go think about what I want to go say to continue the dialogue around this particular topic. Because I know what I'm thinking, but clearly what I'm thinking is not being expressed.
And to me, that there lies the problem, because in order for us to effectively communicate, you and I have to agree on what the meanings of these would mean. Yeah. Because right now it means something else to me, vaguely, right? And it means something else to you, right? Yeah. And you aren't able to find a common connection. Say, hey, the thing I'm talking about, it looks like this, right? Maybe it's the size of Texas, or it has a regular shape like the size of Texas. Exactly. That means there lies the problem, because in order for us to understand each other and be impeccable, the word that we define and label something has to be agreeable by universally, like majority of the people.
It's got to be simple enough for somebody to understand. This goes back to simplicity, right? This goes back to anybody can understand something.
I mean, we're talking about 3 years trying to define what clubbing is.
Right. I mean, like Nassim Taleb says, anybody can understand something. It takes a master to write it, right? Like you have to be crystal clear and simple and define it clearly what this is or what this is not. And I have failed in that today. Not that I'm, and because I can only go off
that's your goal of trying to make me understand. That's how you feel, and that's what you think, and that's what you put down.
That's the point of this. Like this would be a meaningless conversation if we never were able to connect on an idea, or you know what I mean?
Well, I don't think
every single day I went in and I said purple, and you were like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "Purple," and you're like, "What the fuck does that mean?" Purple, true, God, like fucking purple. And you're like,
so simple, man.
I don't know what
you're dumb could you be?
I just can't talk to you anymore. You just don't understand. You don't get it. It's purple. It's purple.
That's the thing, is how do we solve that problem? When you come to me and you say purple, and you basically, hey, true, it's not possible for you not to understand something. But on my side, it is so possible for me to have no idea what you're talking about. And so that's the thing is, there has to be some kind of understanding, between like, hey, what I say and what he understands. Because a lot of times you say, hey, this is so simple that even an ape can understand what is going on. I give up. I can't talk to you.
Right? I mean, I do see everything as a game. Like, I really do. I think that's our fundamental problem here between the two of us is, like, I look at life as a game, right? Like, I look at everything that goes on these days as a game. Like, I'm either playing a game.
Life is like a game, but it's not a game to me.
It's a finite. It's an infinite game. That's the point. It's not a game.
An infinite game is a game at all, because the game is a human construct. You cannot put a label on it and say, hey, I classify this as a game.
It's a non-game game.
Right? I claim the mountain as a cup, right?
Right. But this is why I'm saying I can't be impeccable with my words. I understand what I'm saying is like, this is a non-game game, right? And you're like, what the fuck is a non-game game? And I'm like, it's an anti-game. I don't know, like, but it's still a game, but it's not a game. Like I think that like 100%, I am not impeccable with my words right now of how I'm thinking of this and translating this, to somebody else. And honestly, it reminds me of like talking to Luca. Sometimes I'm blown away where I'm like, how did you understand what I just said? He understands context of certain things. I'm like, how did you know? Like, he'll just say stuff, that's like the right context and the right place and the right time. And I'm like, how did you learn that? I know I said things in the past, and I know you probably heard them, but how did you learn how to connect what I just said to the actual meaning of like what, I can't think of an example, but it happens every day.
I mean, the thing is how I learn and how Luca learned is completely different, right? And so you can't tell me what something means. Right. Only I can define that on a point of reference, based on triangulation, based on reinforcement feedback. Same thing with Luca. He has his own method of reinforcing. Okay, he keeps saying this word and he doing this. Well, I'm saying he says this and he does that. That's a pattern to it. Okay, that pattern. Okay, that means
that must be what that means,
right? So he has his own construct, his own definitions. So even though we, as a human being, able to communicate, we agreed on, but you cannot define something for me. You can maybe relate something. Hey, this Mount Rushmore, right, is as big as the state of New York, right? You make a reference to something that I've seen, right? But if there is nothing for you to reference, you say, hey, this mountain here is this big. Well, it's big. Well,
what does that mean?
That has no meaning. The word big has no meaning to me.
Right.
What does big mean, right? The state of Texas is big. What the hell does that mean? Oh, it's small. Well, it's small compared to the whole fucking world. Yeah,
house,
compared to the universe, but it's big, right? So the word big means shit to me.
Right.
It means shit to you, right? It means shit to a lot of people, but there's so many variations.
I mean, you could go down this rabbit hole for forever. Like,
so it's not like a definition that it's so dynamic of definition. It's just mainly a placeholder for something of relative size, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. Like language is so fascinating, and like honestly, it's becoming something that I'm like kind of in awe of a lot these days. Where that Homo Deus book that I'm reading right now, like a lot of this, he was talking about like algorithms, how basically life is an algorithm, and how algorithms are going to be so much more important going forward, right? Like language is an algorithm. I mean, it really is. It's 100% just another algorithm that we've invented ways to be able to, all these words that I just said out of my mouth, you understand what I'm saying to you. And like, that's fucking fascinating.
You're just making sound.
I mean,
you're making sound. I mean, the thing is, you look at the whale and the whale goes, it's like, what the fuck these guys do? I mean, and the whale look at us and out of here, like, and then, what the fuck are these humans doing? Right? Thing is, you and I, the only thing we make is sounds.
I know. It's so that I can understand that I understand what you were saying almost 99% of the time. We went to the zoo tonight, because it's like the zoo boo stuff, and we have a membership, and it was just a really nice night out. And we were like, hey, let's, we picked Luca up from daycare. We walked over there because the daycare is only like, I think it's about a mile and a quarter away from our house or something like that. So we took a stroller over there, my wife and I, after she got off work and I got off work, and we went to go pick him up. And on the way back, we were like, it's really nice out. You want to go to the zoo? Sure, let's go to the zoo. So we go to the zoo, and the entire time on the way to the zoo, Luca was just going, I want to see the dolphins. I want to see the dolphins. I want to see the dolphins. What he meant is they have a dolphin show at 12:30, 2:30, and 5:30 or something like that, right? So they have these 20-minute dolphin shows where they jump all around, hit balls in the air, they do a bunch of tricks and splash a bunch of people. It happens every single day. And we got there, by the time we got there, it was 6:30 already, right? So he kept saying, I want to see the dolphins. So there's like an underwater viewing area that I've never been to before, because every time I go there, I didn't even realize you could go into the dolphin pavilion without actually having it be like a show that's going on in there. But you can. So they're just in the tank, and you can go underneath the tank, and you can you can be in this like bubble where you can look up and see all the dolphins everywhere, right? And they're flicking by, going, like, and you can hear them, like, like, because you're surrounded by them. You're like literally like in a glass dome, in the middle of their tank, and they're in their. I had no idea that even existed at the zoo, and I've been to the zoo 100 times probably, and anyway, my point being is what you were just saying. I just watched this. They were playing around. There was 5 of them in the tank, and they were doing all kinds of crazy shit with each other, and they knew what they were talking about, and they were communicating with each other. But like, I'm sitting there going, like, what the fuck are they saying? What are they doing? Why are they doing this? It's just mesmerizing to me that we have an algorithm to communicate between the two of us where you can almost majority of the time understand what I'm saying. And like, that's fucking fascinating.
Yeah, we're just making sound. It's just like smacking lips together and creating the sound wave.
It's fascinating.
That's all we do. I mean, you look at animals, they do the same thing. It's making sound to communicate. Right. And they have an algorithm to take whatever sound wave that comes in and create this understanding. Just like you and I creating it. Like I can go and speak Spanish to you, or go speak Vietnamese to you, and you have no idea what I'm saying.
No idea. I mean, no idea. And this is what I'm so fascinated by with Luca is like, how the fuck did you figure out what I was saying and what I meant? Like, I just don't understand it. Like, I literally, it's like fucking magic.
I mean, if I drop you off right now, like, let's say you don't know a single word of Vietnamese, okay? You don't know a single word. I drop you off in Vietnam, and the people in Vietnam doesn't know anything of English. So there's not a way for you guys to communicate by commonality. But eventually you're going to understand what they say, and they're going to say what you say. Because it's just that, just like Luca was going to learn from his own definition is, I'm going to watch, and I'm going to figure out an algorithm based on the noise that comes in and the action they take, and I'm going to start to create a mental map, an algorithm of what these mean, and eventually it's going to get more accurate as I start to adjust. Like in 6 months, you probably speak Vietnamese fluently.
Remember that book, Ultra Learning? Do you remember that one? That was like really early on in this journey. But one of the things that guy did in that book was, I think he tried to become fluent in like, I think it was like, I want to say like 4 languages or maybe 3 languages in a year. So he moved to a country for 4 months at a time, I think. And he achieved basic fluency. He wasn't fluent, but he
enough to converse with somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I think he had like some standard that he was like, I'm going to define this as fluency, and if I can meet this standard, then I can, then I'll call myself whatever it was, right? Like, and he was able to achieve it. All right, question we can leave for you, and I guess I don't even know what this means anymore, but what came to you? All right, well,
a lot of things to think about.
Right, exactly. Well, we will see you all tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. Yep.
All right, see you. Good night, everybody. Bye.